feel like I need to like rotate my microphone.
A little bit off axis there.
I don't know. Maybe it's, I think it's because my chair's turned.
You've really got to situate yourself properly for effective podcasting.
It's a matter of angles, Daniel. Like I can't totally see my entire iPad with my right eye, but I can with my left eye, and it's a little weird. But if I like lean over here, now I'm like way away, like Daniel. So you can't hear me, but I can see my iPad.
You got to pick and choose.
What do you want? Do you want this or do you want this?
I'd prefer something in between, maybe.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you remember the days before we had these mic arms and we were setting up the, we had like a freestanding mic stand? And remember how it just kept sliding down slowly during the episode?
Those were dark times.
It was awful.
No, all mic stands are terrible. That's what I'm trying to say. Like those specifically, those like 3-legged, it's got like an arm and like a few. I've never seen a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when you twist the lock, to lock the angle on it, it's just not a good mechanism.
The first one of those I bought, the twist lock thing broke immediately and I had to take it back and they replaced it.
You would think for such a simple thing, like that technology would be, fully developed by now.
No,
and
they're
apparently not.
All bad.
Yeah. Before we start, I want you to update our listeners on the audio issues you reported to me with last week's episode. Or I guess this was 2 weeks ago episode.
Oh, the thing from earlier today?
Yeah, when you said that the audio levels were all over the place.
Okay,
so it kept going up and down.
Hey, to be clear, that was a pre-show. This is a pre-show.
Okay.
Just making sure we're all on the same page. Two, if I'm wrong about this, someone better write in and tell me. But
somebody else be like, I noticed it too.
Honestly, Daniel, they could have the same issue as me. I had the whatever updates with the AirPods and iOS 18 or whatever has that adaptive audio stuff, personalized audio. And I've been noticing it with like whenever I go on a run, like I'll be like running or whatever, and a car will pass, and like after the car's passed, the sound goes up, and like the volume goes up, and then the volume goes down. And it's like, it's trying to be responsive and like, oh, your environment's loud, now I'm going to increase the volume, but it's kind of just inconsistent and not good at it. And I keep thinking, I need to turn that off at some point. And today I was listening to the podcast and I'm like, why does the audio keep getting louder and then softer and then louder and then softer? And I thought like something had screwed up with whatever the compressor that you use for the mix. And it then occurred to me, I was like, oh, it only gets louder when I type on my keyboard. And apparently brown switches are not super, super quiet. And I type too loud or too aggressive. Maybe I was just having a bad day. And I was just like, oh yeah, well here comes this email. Clack, 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 clack. Why is the podcast louder? Clack, 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 clack.
Imagine if you were wearing an Apple Watch and it started telling you were going to get hearing damage from that loud keyboard.
Who knows? Probably. And of course, obviously, I immediately blame Daniel. Try harder. Why don't you edit the show? Anyway. No, don't press it. We have a pre-show. So help me, Daniel. That would have been really awkward if we just totally skipped the pre-show.
Oh, man. Can you imagine the faux pas?
It would be very confusing. You'd have to like cut it out or whatever. I don't know. You'd have to play the intro twice. I don't know. Should I get a new bag?
Haven't we been talking about this for weeks?
Yeah, but like my Timbuktu bag here, it's really starting to tear up here on the back. Look at that. I can't even like fix that with patches anymore.
Oh man, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, like it's I'm kind of like.
I didn't know it was that bad. That's pretty extreme.
The outer casing, and like it's not because it's not the canvas, whatever the 3-ply canvas stuff. This is a different material. I just feel like the corners where it folds over are starting to get a little like worn thin. And Daniel, should I get a new Timbuktu bag?
Well, I was going to ask, when you say get a new bag, would you replace it with another Timbuktu messenger bag?
Yes, I need to. I'm wondering if I should, in your opinion, since it's just us two girls talking, if I should replace my Timbuktu with another Timbuktu.
I kind of think so.
Is it time?
I have that canvas one with the custom colors, and I really like that bag. And I think you use yours enough that you would benefit from having, one that's a little more durable.
I use it like every day. I love this bag. I've had it since for 8 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's been doing okay.
You've lived a lot do you in the last 8 years.
A lot of lives. I feel like it's time.
Do you think you would? What happens to the patches that are on this bag? Do they stay on do you keep this bag for posterity? or do you get rid of it? What happens to the patches?
I think
These
I
are
would
big questions.
burn the bag like an effigy, and then I would recover the patches.
Like before or after burning it?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah, the patches stay with me.
Would you actually burn the bag?
I feel like I have to.
Be an interesting move.
I don't know what else I'd do with it.
What do you think that would smell like?
Like,
I guess
like
not,
a burning tire. Something that smell like East Texas.
Got to throw some bleach in there for good measure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video. I don't know why you keep looking down at your iPad and then back. I'm just going to keep staring at you. It's not happening.
What? It says right here, Daniel starts the show with Lucas as a shocking twist of events.
We've already passed that point. The show's been started.
Well, no, this is the part where like after, and then like it plays the music, and then because you have like a topic.
That is not the time that that's not the time you say my name. You say my name at the very beginning. Usually the very first thing that happens. You even removed this topic. I totally removed the topic.
I had to add it back.
I'm impressed you remembered. Do you want to do that topic?
What even? I don't even know what it is.
Okay. So the topic I had written on is just titled Gray Camera. And, I didn't know if you had guesses of what that was. It sounds like maybe not. But, there's like...
I honestly have no idea.
There's like gray market cameras and things like that. It has nothing to do with that. So...
Okay.
Yeah. So ironically...
Lucas, you ever heard of the black market?
Yeah.
Not that.
The watch that I actually happen to be wearing today is a Casio watch, and it's sort of like informally known as the Gray Man watch. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this concept of the Gray Man.
I think it's pronounced Casio.
You think so? Well, we'll have to ask the listeners. Anyway, there's this...
I'm not familiar with the concept of the Gray Man. I'm familiar with a Slender Man?
No, not like that.
Wait, isn't that a movie with Ryan Reynolds? Jacob Gyllenhaal. Okay, you keep doing it. I'm going to find out who's in the Gray Man.
All right, you do that. So there's this concept of the Gray Man, which is basically like just a totally unobtrusive, uninteresting, like unremarkable person. Like the thing that makes the Gray Man unique is that you don't notice him. Mm-hmm. And so it's like having just totally plain things, like, not something you would remember, like kind of just
gray,
bland, normal, like unremarkable. And so I was thinking about that with this watch that I like a lot. And it made me wonder, like, what is the camera equivalent of that? And so what I mean is, what is a camera that you could see somebody have, and that, like you pay a lot of attention to what cameras people have, similar to you paying a lot of attention to what cell phone people have.
I used to know what phone everyone I knew owned.
Until they all had iPhones.
But yeah, they all have iPhones.
Yeah.
Now. It was directed by Joe Russo, the Russo brothers, I guess. The Russo brothers, and Ryan Gosling is the Gray Man. So it sounds like what you're asking me, what is the Ryan Gosling of cameras?
Absolutely. No, what I want to know is, what is the camera that to you just feels like the standard issue digital camera, where if you saw somebody using that camera and then 3 days later someone said, hey, what camera did that person have? You wouldn't be able to answer the question.
Yeah, are we talking about like a digital mirrorless interchangeable lens camera?
Like a modern, yeah.
I guess it doesn't have to be mirrorless.
A modern digital camera.
Whenever people have a Sony, I notice that it's a Sony. Whenever people have a Canon, it's almost impossible to tell which Canon they have. Because they're all basically the same ergo shape, and it's really hard to pick them out of a crowd. Mm-hmm. And like 40% of the camera market is Canon.
I mean, yeah, because like a few years ago, I definitely would have said something like a Canon 5D Mark whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But now that's old enough that I might actually like notice. Like,
that would stand out. I mean, you see like A7R4s and A7 a lot. Mm-hmm. But like, I wouldn't say they're unremarkable.
I think I'd say like a Sony A6400, like that type of like compact APS-C Sony camera. I'd be like, oh yeah, you have a camera. But like, I wouldn't really think much else of it. I don't know.
Okay, all right, I could get behind that. I think I'm still going to lean on like anything that's shaped like an R6.
Okay,
I would just kind of be like, oh, that's
camera shaped camera.
Yeah,
yeah,
the Gray camera.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, if you want to not stand out and not have Lucas notice what camera you have, then just get a Canon R6. Easy.
Yeah. Don't have like a Fuji.
Yeah, definitely don't have a Fuji. You're gonna get locked into a long conversation with Lucas if you have
boy.
Fuji.
Yeah. Oof, boy.
But I mean, me too, right? Like if I see somebody shooting an X-T5, we met a guy a while back. We were doing an interview series, and like one of the guys we were interviewing said, "Oh, I'm into cameras," and we're like, we hear that a lot, right? And then,
Sure.
And then we don't, it's
and then Daniel goes, Lucas has a podcast, and I go, shut up.
literally every time.
It's the worst.
But we asked him what he shot, and he has a Fuji. I don't remember which one. Is it like an
he
XT4?
had an XT4 with the 16 to 80 f4, and that was 3.5 months ago, and I still remember.
Yep. You still remember, and you still need to call him.
Did we get his number? I guess you have his number.
I'm pretty sure we have his number.
We should hang out.
Yeah. You should hang out and talk about Fuji.
Maybe he's into F1. That'd be cool.
Get his opinion on the XM5.
Do you think he has an opinion?
I don't know. Maybe he does.
I have an opinion.
What if he's really into the idea of the digital half frame camera?
Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah. No one's perfect.
no one's nobody's perfect. Anyway, okay, moving on. Let's talk about I don't know, is this a great camera? This can't be. No. The Q3.
No. If you see somebody with a Leica Q3, you're absolutely going to notice that. Come on.
But like, you can't really tell if it's a Q2 or not.
Yeah, I'm still going to be like, that person's walking around with a $5,000 camera.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, it would be a $6,895 camera.
Oh, geez.
Are you familiar with the Q3 43 that came out recently?
I think I saw something about it. So it's basically the same as the regular Q3, but with a different lens. And because I'm not a Leica shooter, I don't know what lens the original Q3 had.
It had a 28 millimeter f1.7 Summilux lens.
Okay. And it's a full frame camera. So
Yes.
that's 28 millimeter full frame equivalent. And that's what it actually is.
Yep.
And now they've added a 43 option.
Right. So when did the Q3 come out? It was like, what, 2022?
Yeah, it feels
2023?
something like that. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been like a year-ish. So there's the two versions of the Q3. And Q3 was remarkable in that like it has a flippy screen and shoots 8K video.
Yeah.
So the big things that they changed, the two previous versions obviously was monochrome and standard color. This one is currently only in color. They didn't release like a Q3 43 monochrome.
Mm-hmm. That'd just be too niche.
Highly disappointing. Obviously, we're all very upset. And the big deal here is that it is an APO Summicron lens. Daniel, are you familiar with the difference between a Summilux and a Summicron?
Absolutely not. I feel like I can't afford either of them.
Yeah. Are you familiar with like the different evolutionary states of Snorlax?
Not well enough to.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll not make that comparison. I don't even know if Snorlax evolves really. Anyways, so for Leica, they have two different categories of lenses, and Summicrons are typically f2 or slower, and Summiluxes are typically f1.4.
Oh, okay.
The Summilux on the Q3, the 28 millimeter, is unique in that it is a 1.7, but fine. Now, so this is an f2. It's a 43 millimeter f2 lens. It is a Summicron, so f2 makes sense. The other thing that they're making sure that you understand is an APO lens. Do you know what that means?
No. Please tell me.
This is all just, anyways, whatever. APO means that it's apochromatic. Do you know what that means? I'm going to stop asking you. I'm just going to tell you. So
I'm more just surprised that all these descriptive terms they use for these lenses actually mean something.
They do.
Because when I see stuff like that, I'm like, do they just throw in words together? What do these things mean?
They all legit mean something, and apparently for Leica, they really mean something.
Apparently.
So whenever you're designing a lens, you specifically, you obviously you have to converge all the light into a single focus point. Mm-hmm. And generally, whenever you design a lens, you want all the light waves to meet at that point. Whenever they don't, you get some sort of chromatic aberration, loca, the other kind, canonical, whatever it's called, spatialiformical. I can't remember. It's actually in my notes down here, farther down, but I'm even going to scroll because I don't care that much. Point is, normally it's like the green and the blue you'll converge, and then the red is typically what will be errant.
Yeah, you see like the little fringing.
Yeah, like you'll get a little bit of magenta fringing, chromatic aberration of like, oh, here's a high contrast scene, you're going to get a little bit of fringing. If you have an apochromatic lens, that means you have perfectly converged all of the light to the focus point. And
That sounds aspirational to me.
if it is truly apochromatic, you will not get chromatic aberrations. And there are certain lenses that Leica makes that are APO lenses, which are apochromatic. And they're just like super duper expensive and super duper fancy.
And so is this one of those lenses?
I'm now wondering if APO is actually apochromatic or there's a different word and I'm saying it wrong. Do you ever do that, Daniel? Where you're like, you said a word enough and you go, am I saying that right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, I think I'm right. Anyways, point is, like if you, like they make a 50 millimeter f2 APO Summicron lens and that lens is like $6,000. But
hey, you know what other lens was APO? The legendary lens from a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, that
the
is true.
1700 millimeter lens. That was an APO lens.
Oh, I can't imagine how expensive that thing was.
I mean, it was literally priceless.
That is true. Okay. Anyways, so that is one exciting thing about this lens is that it is going to be unbelievably sharp. I think that the words that they used are absolute best quality that is possible and astonishing quality.
Do you feel like you'd be astonished when you looked at a photo from that lens?
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
So the other thing is it's 43 millimeters, which is kind of weird. We had that whole conversation about for like normal lenses a few episodes back.
Yeah, it's kind of like a well-rounded human perspective type.
Right. And like I watched the video on the announcement of this thing or whatever that like was like talking about the lens itself. And they definitely said like if you have a 35 millimeter sensor and like the diagonal distance is 43 millimeters. And so like this is...
The numbers are the same.
This is an exactly neutral lens is what they're saying. And so like obviously like if you have a telephoto, you're going to get pincushion distortion. You have a wide angle, you're going to get like barrel distortion. Supposedly, according to Leica, if it's 43 millimeters on this specific APO lens, you are not going to get either pincushioning or barrel distortion because it will be perfectly normal.
So it will give you, you might say, the absolute best quality that is possible.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. Based upon like the pricing and stuff of their other lenses and just the amount of hoopla they're making about this specific 43 millimeter lens, which they don't even have like a net, like this, it's only on this camera, like made it for this camera, which is also pretty stinking cool.
Yeah, it is.
And
cool.
like it's I would say like this lens itself is probably like a $6,000 lens, which means you're getting the camera for like $900.
Yeah, wonderful.
And I think that's why these cameras are like, they're kind of not as feature rich as some other things, but it's because the lenses that they're slapping on them are so stinking good.
Yeah, I mean it probably is legitimately a really good camera that takes really good pictures. Like you're not just paying for the name, you do get better optical quality and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, and like if you're doing a fixed lens camera like Leica's doing here, they built this lens for this camera, for this sensor, and it is like everything is set. There's not going to be any like zooming. The quality is going to be of the utmost.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool and kind of exciting. I think that this lens is going to be sharper, more resolved than probably the 28 millimeter. Not saying the 28 is bad in any way. It's just also a super duper good lens, but it's that one could stand up potentially like aberrate in certain ways, whereas this one will not.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So the previous, as you know, on like as you specifically know, on the Q3, it was like a 28, a 35, a 75, and a 90 millimeter as far as like the different crop modes.
Yeah, because you can crop in on the sensor.
Right, because it's like a 60 megapixel sensor or 63 megapixels or something. Basically like an A7 IV sensor, I think is what it is. Anyway, this one is 43, 60, 75, 90. So you get like one extra one in there on those first four, but then they added a 120 and a 150.
Oh, cool. I mean, that really helps the flexibility of it a lot. If you can crop in and get 150 millimeters, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So what do you think here, Daniel? If you had $7,000 just laying around and you were going to buy a Q3, do you think you would go with the 43 millimeter or the 28 millimeter?
I mean, honestly, it's a pretty hard question. You lose a lot by not getting that wide angle, but because I mean, with either of these, like let's say you go with the 28, you can still crop into 90, so you can still get a punched in, shot if you want. You obviously can't go as far as you can with this lens, but I think the APO thing would kind of be tempting me of like, if I'm going to spend this much on a camera, I want the lens to be the best it can possibly be. And it does kind of sound like this lens is better. So I think I'd be hard pressed to decide.
Yeah. Well,
if I had to pick, I think I'd pick the 28.
Yeah, I don't know how I would land either. If you have the ability to crop in to go tighter, like, why would you not go with the widest option? Because then you can't go wider than 43.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
that's why I'm saying 28.
I've shot enough with my Hymatic AF2, which is a 40 millimeter fixed lens, that I feel like I could manage at 43 millimeters just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think I prefer 23. It's a hard one.
Well, 23 is not an option. So
sorry, 28.
Yeah.
I said the wrong thing, Daniel. Yeah, this one's tough.
And if you're spending that much on a camera, it's like you want to make the right choice.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could always go to 120 millimeters on this thing.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyways, one more thing that they added, which they said may or may not be coming to a firmware update on the other Q3, is you can now use an external microphone via USB-C adapter.
That will be perfect for vlogging with your $6,900 camera.
Yeah, you can slap your Rode mic on there or whatever.
Maybe I should get that instead of a cinema camera.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, just get that and film all our interviews with it.
It does wirelessly charge.
Oh.
You can just toss it on its dock and it'll charge.
That's pretty cool.
You don't have to put any SD cards in it. It's got built-in storage.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would love to own one. I just don't want to pay for it.
Well, yeah, and you're also going to wait for the monochrome version.
Of course, yes.
All right, next thing I have on here. This is kind of a crapshoot episode. It looks like there's just so many things.
Really,
I don't know what you're going to name this.
Random topics.
I think we're going to skip over this thing about has Daniel messed with those jammers, because I almost certainly know that you haven't. So we're just going to move on, because one of these days we're going to talk about time code. Okay, Daniel, I have a movie corner.
Okay.
I'm looking to see if it's a sanctioned segment. Yes, this is a sanctioned segment.
Oh, thank goodness.
All right, just double checking. All right, Lucas' movie corner. Are you familiar with Danny Boyle?
No, I'm not.
We've talked about one of his movies on this podcast before, which is Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
What was there's something about that. Like, there's a reason we talked about it, and I don't remember what that reason was.
It was because of
they filmed it, and it was something weird, right?
Yeah, it had that camera where they were using a Mac Mini in a backpack with dry ice in order to...
Yeah.
Yep.
That was cool.
It was cool. Are you familiar with the movie 28 Days Later? This stars Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it, but I've definitely heard of it.
It would stand out if you've seen it, mostly because of the way the director's cut starts. It's a bit shocking.
Okay.
Anyways, that movie was shot on like this prosumer grade like Canon XL1 and like 480p. And if you go back and like watch clips of that movie, it looks like garbage.
Oh, interesting. It's like a stylistic choice.
It looks like the footage that you remember, like my old JVC Evo like 480p camcorder. Mm-hmm. It looks like it was shot on that.
Do you know when that movie came out?
2000.
So it was. I mean. And they probably had
it was like 99, 2001. It was very early in digital filmmaking.
But like they would have had enough budget to use something bigger, or was that just like they made it with that because that's what they had?
Part of it was a stylistic choice, as like kind of this person's waking up 28 days after the rage virus, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like this guerrilla whatever look to it.
Like a found footage type?
Yeah,
type
a
effect.
Little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so like it is particularly a stylistic choice, but also it allowed them to make it a lot cheaper because the other option would be just to shoot it on film.
Sure.
And I think it was fairly early enough in his career that like it made sense. And shooting digital at that time was kind of a big deal. And so it's like, let's shoot digital. And so in the same vein, I don't remember if he did 28 Weeks Later or not. I don't think that was a Danny Boyle movie. I may be wrong about that. But he's currently working on 28 Years Later, which is going to come out next year.
Very creative name.
I mean, we got to keep going with it. But this one is directed by Danny Boyle. And thus far, the unconfirmed, semi-confirmed rumors are that they are shooting that movie or shot that movie on the iPhone 15 Pro Max.
I think I did hear something about that. It's pretty interesting.
I think it's like in line with kind of the concept of the first movie of like what's something that anyone could buy that we're going to shoot this on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, clearly in 2025 the answer to that is a smartphone.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so I think that's this is kind of super fun.
Yeah,
and I'm I'm definitely gonna have to watch this movie because I want to see what they did.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I'd also love to see behind the scenes, like how much did they rig it up, because that's always the thing, right? I mean, Apple shoots all their events now, I think, on the iPhone, but you see the behind the scenes stuff, and they have this tiny little iPhone clamped on like a motorized dolly, and they're using all kinds of gear.
Yeah. Well, like where this started is like someone got a BTS kind of shot of the camera situation, and they're like, is that an iPhone? And they like reach out to the production, and they're like, yes, it is an iPhone. And that was kind of a whole thing, but they've definitely rigged those iPhones out for the shoot. And it seems like they may be using some sort of like lens adapter, which makes me want to ask you, are you familiar with the Beast Grip DOF MK3, which is a Canon EF to iPhone adapter?
No, I don't think I am. I sent you something recently where somebody had rigged an iPhone like way up, and like they had like a shoulder rig for their iPhone.
Oh, that was like something that Moment posted on Twitter or whatever, and I was like, "What is happening right now?"
No, I don't think I saw this Beast Grip thing.
This is you get their cage, and then you can mount this absurdity to the cage, and then you can equip your EF lenses to service your iPhone.
That's just ridiculous looking. It looks like the look of this adapter is like a mini 70 to 200, and then that's just the adapter, and then you put a lens on it. That's ridiculous. It's way too far.
I want this like super bad. I mean, I already have EF lenses, Daniel. I want to take my 24 to 105 and slap it on my iPhone.
Do you actually think you would use your iPhone with external lenses, like those Moment lenses or anything? Like, do you see yourself using that for filmmaking?
Only as a lark.
Yeah. That's kind of what I thought.
Though I would like one of those Moment, it's like anamorphic lenses. Those seem fun.
Yeah.
Those seem like they give you a legitimate something that you can do, even if you're like shooting photos with it. It seems like it would be.
Well, and the other advantage to that is that it's something that's expensive to get with your bigger camera. Whereas with this EF lens thing, my thought is, I mean, maybe it makes sense if you don't have anything else, but if you have another camera, just use lenses on your big camera. It's going to look better.
Oh yeah, for sure. Still fun. Still want one.
Yeah, it is kind of neat.
Christmas is coming up. Okay. That is the end of my movie corner. Go ahead and play the outro. Okay, Daniel. One more lens thing here, since this has mostly been lenses, and then we're going to talk about some film stuff.
Film stuff.
Well,
my favorite.
It's similar. So I saw there was this. I think you sent me this link. This would technically fall into links that Daniel sent me segment, but there's only one of them, and that's a non-sanctioned segment, and I don't think there's enough links for us to justifiably invoke that segment. So just go ahead and scratch that from the record.
Oh, okay.
This is the Atra Lab Noct non-core 50 millimeter 1.2.
Yeah, I remember seeing this and sending it to you, and it's like a very on the nose ripoff.
It's like no Nikkor almost.
Yeah. I mean, non-Nikkor is about as close as you can get to no Nikkor.
Yeah. This is like super 100% a Nikon Noct ripoff, like on purpose. They're pretty blatantly saying it. And so I wanted to talk about it.
Of course. You know why you wanted to talk about it? Because one of the mounts they make it for is X mount.
I mean, that is part of the reason. And so let's get into it. So they're making this whatever lens, and I mean, I don't even know where to start on this thing. I think I'm going to skip straight to my conclusion, which is thumbs down.
But why?
So it's $400, which is cool. It has full frame coverage, and it is for, I think, Z, E, and XF mounts.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So your Sony, your Nikons, and your Fujis. Mm-hmm. The original Nikkor Noct lens was 58 millimeter 1.2. This is 50 millimeters. Sorry, it was 1.2. It's not the same. Like if you're gonna make maybe it was 1.4. Yeah, it was 58 1.4. Did I get that right? Doesn't matter. This is the wrong focal length. So it's not.
Yeah, it's not the
same. So in no way is it. My first thought was did they take the original optical formula and remake it? No, this is just
just a similar lens, and then they're kind of riding the coattails of the name.
This is exactly what they're doing. Leica had a 50 millimeter 1.2. What was it called? Noctilux. And so maybe they're trying to say it's similar to that, but they're pretty clearly invoking the Nikon Noct. And so
I think they are.
I got a little bit of miffed by the whole, you're making it in the wrong focal length if you're trying to make a Noct. The price seems fine. It wasn't clear as far as like what they're doing with the optical formula. The whole big deal with the Noct whenever it came out was that it was super good at handling a sagittal coma flare. Told you I wrote it later in the notes, which is like those dragony shaped triangle types of flaring that you get with certain low light type photography. I like super seriously doubt that this lens is managing sagittal coma flare like the Noct or even the current Noct does. I don't think that this is truly a nighttime low light lens like the original. I mean, like, I don't know that for sure, but I super, super doubt it. And so I feel like what made the Noct special was not that it was uber duper fast. It was that it was particularly good at handling the type of like issues that you would see coming out of shooting at night.
That was an unexpectedly deep analysis of that.
I'm just saying.
I sent you this lens and I'm like, it looks like Noct. And then meanwhile you're like, the sagittal coma flare is not going to be the same. And
how did you not expect this?
This is what people have come to expect from this podcast. So I'm glad we didn't disappoint.
Leica has made like reissuings, like reprints of old lenses. And like, I was hoping that that's what this was. I was like, you do it, man, rip it off and like print us another Noct. That sounds like it'd be super fun. Like Leica reissued their, they had like a 90 millimeter f2 and a 28 millimeter f6. They were like 1935 designs, and they're these old like Sumeron, whatever, Leica lenses, and they reissued them in the early 2000s. It's like, here is this old lens that we're going to build exactly how it was built then. That's cool. I don't think that's what this is.
No, doesn't seem like it. It's manual focus only, too.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know anything about Astrolab. I mean, I don't want to, make assumptions that they're just using like Rokinon designs or something, but
well, I mean, for the lens being $400, how much engineering could really be going into it is the other thing.
If you go look for 50 millimeter 1.2 manual focus lens, there actually aren't really that many. Like, how there's all those China lenses or whatever that you can get.
Yeah.
Not too many of them are like full frame, really.
Okay.
And so, I mean, if you go like search on B&H for a 50 millimeter 1.2, you're not really going to find any options other than this before you start getting into like the actual OEM brand expensive ones.
Okay.
So like if you really need a 50 millimeter 1.2 full frame lens and you only have like $400, maybe this kind of makes sense. Who knows how good of quality it is? I know that a lot of those, like, say like you pick up like a Samyang 50 millimeter 1.4 for like E-mount or something that's a manual focus lens. It's like basically not great at anything below like f2-ish.
Yeah, and even then, like, for anybody who doesn't know, you kind of do get what you pay for with lenses, where a cheaper lens is probably not going to be as sharp. Maybe it'll have more of the, chromatic aberration and more just like optical issues.
Yeah, or like the bokeh may like have like had come out of phase of itself and get like duplicating and stuff.
It's not always that way. I mean, there are like diamonds in the rough for lenses, and we talk a lot about how, like, for example, Fuji lenses are cheaper than full frame lenses. Like, it's less glass. That makes sense. But if you're buying a $400 full frame f1.2 lens, like, chances are it's not as good as, like the Canon 51.2.
Agreed. So I think that if you're on Fuji, I would say, like, if you really want something like this, go buy the Sigma 56mm 1.4 because it's like $430 and it has autofocus and it's super duper good.
Those lenses are really good for the price.
They're really good for the price. If you're on full frame, like, maybe you could buy this, but you could also buy like a Rokinon 50mm 1.4 or like a TT Artisan 50mm 1.4. Sure, it's like 2/3 of a stop slower or whatever, but I mean, I don't know. I kind of think that those are probably going to be maybe better.
Yeah.
Though also, I've never shot with an Astrolab lens. Maybe it's perfect.
Yeah. Who knows? Like you said, it's kind of, it feels a little off-putting that they're trying to ride the Noct name.
Yeah, I think that's what turned me off the most about it, was the fact that they're like, it's a Noct, but it's not.
Not a Noct.
It's like, they made it look like the old one, but it's not the same focal length. It's not the same speed. It's just, I don't know. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what kind of camera you would put your Noct lens on?
Tell me.
A film camera. But But Daniel, what if you don't have any film and you want to shoot digital?
That is the case. I don't have any film, and I like shooting digital.
What you should do is you should get this I'm back system, and put a film back in your camera.
Put a film back in my camera.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you got it.
What does that mean?
A digital film back.
Okay.
So there's this company. I think the company's name is I'm Back Film. I think that's right. And they make this like micro 4/3 20 megapixel sensor thing, and then like a bottom case thing, and you essentially like put the fake film canister with the sensor in your film camera, and then like you mount your camera on this other thing so that you have a digital viewfinder, and it like makes your film camera into a digital camera.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Huh. And so this is it compatible with like very specific cameras, or does it work with most film cameras?
It seems like there's versions that work with most film cameras, and it's like a 1.5 inch LCD panel, and it's just like,
that is super weird.
Yeah, it's something, but you can buy it, and it's like 20 megapixels, and it's 4/3, and it has like a maximum ISO of 6400, and you can shoot in like 12-bit RAW, and they've been making them since like 2013.
Jeez. I don't know. I don't think I like this idea.
You don't like it, Daniel? Why don't you like it?
I don't like it because I feel like, why do you shoot on film? Like, the reasons you shoot on film are it forces you to slow down because you're not going to be able to see your images immediately. You get the look of film with the dynamic range and the grain and all that. And then maybe you get like some vibe aspects of, the lens quality not being good or or whatever. But this just feels like it misses most of those points. Like, you're just turning it into a not good digital camera. Why would you get this over, a Fuji X106?
Maybe it's cheaper.
Maybe it is. How much does it cost?
I think that you have to buy it through backing something like the Kickstarter or whatever, but I think it's like $600 or something like that.
I don't know. I still feel like, and I mean, what camera would you put this on that would be like excellent quality? Because it's like, why would you pick this over some sort of point and shoot style camera?
I don't know. I think this may have come up through a listener now that I think about it. Maybe that's where this came from. Anyway, I just don't get this.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I mean, I'm thinking like maybe you have a really high quality lens or, something like that, but it just seems kind of like a novelty that I think gives you kind of the worst of both worlds. Like, it's not a particularly good digital camera. If it's micro 4/3 20 megapixels, you can get better than that. And you're not getting the advantages of film with things like the dynamic range, and you're making your camera bigger because you have this thing. Like, it's cool technologically that it exists, but I mean, and I'm not a film guy, but it doesn't seem like really necessarily something I'd want.
Yeah, like you're really fighting the camera, because like the camera is going to want to have to like crank the film forward, and you have to do all this adapting in order to make it work. And I get that like sometimes you may have old film gear around and you want to be able to do things with it, like that isn't just shooting film. Like maybe just you want the digital experience, but you want to relive like those lenses or those looks. And from like a film camera perspective, it's like it's the film and it's the lens, and the lens is like so much of it, and then the film is the other half. And if you're just wanting to get the look of a certain lens, I would say, like, why don't you like just adapt it to your digital camera?
It's probably going to look better.
Like any modern mirrorless camera is going to have an available like $20 manual adapter in order to mechanically adapt the lens to the mirrorless camera, and you're going to get the like soft, glowy, whatever look that you're trying to achieve out of those old lenses. And then the other side of it is, if you want it to look like film, shoot film.
Yeah.
And like you're losing so much light with these, just like cutting down to micro 4/3 from like an actual full frame 35 millimeter.
Well, and not to mention film being, maybe a little more sensitive than most digital sensors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't really see any appeal to this for me. Like, I mean, there's got to be someone that it kind of stands out for, but
yeah,
boy, I was trying to find like where it clicked, and I was like, man, do I like this at all? And it's just kind of like a crummy sensor worst experience. And maybe it's just because I'm like a film guy now and I would rather just shoot film.
Like I said, I think the main thing is I look at it and I'm like, it's cool if they figured out how to do that. Like, that is a clever idea.
Yeah.
I can't picture using it.
You know, this company is all about clever ideas, Daniel.
Are they?
They have another Kickstarter that we need to talk about. And that Kickstarter is the most tiny interchangeable lens camera that you can buy.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I mean, how small is it?
It is called the Micro Mirrorless Yashica I'm Back.
Doesn't roll off the tongue.
It's probably because I didn't really like lean into it.
Okay.
The Micro Mirrorless Yashica I'm Back.
Hey, that is pretty small. The guy's like holding the camera and two lenses in the palm of his hand.
Oh, it's super small, Daniel. And I'm going to tell you everything about this. This is closed on Kickstarter. It was fulfilled as of May of this year. And I believe that it was like $600 something thousand that they raised for this thing.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. 653.
Yeah. So it's funded. They're making it. And it is definitely a thing. So
who said you need a big camera to take great photos? Not them.
No, they didn't. It's I'm going to read you some marketing copy here. Can go anywhere. 3 lenses. Lighter than a smartphone. Travel vloggers and photo enthusiasts.
Do you see this picture that they have of the? They have an adapter, I guess, and this is a Nikkor 80. It says 80. It's got to be 80 to 200.
Yep.
f2.8, and the camera is on the back of it, and this lens is so much bigger than that camera.
It looks like somebody took an action camera and like a GoPro or something, and then put it on a telephoto lens.
Oh, that's great. It comes in colors?
Oh, yeah. You can get it in red or black or blue.
I don't know anything about it yet, but this is much cooler than the film back.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. It's super duper small. It's like 5 centimeters by 7 centimeters. And I was trying to look for a comparison, and I think that I have something similar that we talked about last episode, which was the XM5. Was that last episode? No, it was 2 episodes ago. How big is XM5, Daniel? Just offhand.
It's smaller than a bread box.
That
bigger than a deck of cards.
Is accurate. It is 112 millimeters by 67 millimeters. Mm-hmm. And this is 50 by 7. So same height as a XM5, but half the width. Yeah. It's like if you took an XM5 and just lopped off half of it.
It's very small.
It is quite small.
I see we get a flippy screen here.
Yeah, full flippy screen.
That way you can vlog with it.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Wait, can this do video? I don't know if it can do video.
I think it can do video, Daniel.
Maybe it's just for. No, it definitely can, because they're showing this picture here of a mic on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can definitely shoot video on it.
It's C mount. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
That's like an old 16 millimeter mount for like film, like old cameras.
Interesting.
And they went that route because they wanted people to have the opportunity to adapt things to it. Now, in talking about C mount and lenses, whenever they originally announced this thing, they were like, it comes with a wide standard and telephoto lens. And I had to like dig a little bit to find out what that means. What that means is that it's a 25 millimeter on the wide, 90 millimeter on the standard, and 250 millimeter on the telephoto.
Wow. That's a pretty wide range.
I feel like 25 millimeters isn't wide. Well, I guess it's not ultra wide. It's technically wide.
But I just meant like from 25 to 250 is a pretty broad range.
It is a pretty broad range.
Yeah.
So the actual focal lengths of those lenses is 3.4 millimeter, 8.6, and 25 millimeters.
Tiny little lenses.
And as I mentioned before, a C mount is for a 16 millimeter film. Do you know how big that is, Daniel? Do you know how big this sensor is?
16 millimeters. That's my answer.
It's roughly 1/1.2.
So it's close to a 1-inch sensor.
Do you know what else has a 1/1.2 inch sensor?
Is it the iPhone?
Yes.
So this basically has an iPhone sensor.
No, it has a Sony IMX117 sensor. Do you know what that was in?
Obviously. No, I don't.
The GoPro Hero 3 and Hero 4 Black.
Oh my gosh.
It is that sensor.
Wow. So image quality could be lacking on this, although the lenses are bigger than the GoPro lens, to be fair.
Do you know when the GoPro Hero 3 came out?
Oh, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It's like 2012.
Yeah.
I
bet they got those lenses cheap.
This is a 10-year-old 1/1.2 inch GoPro sensor.
It's going to make the vibes so much stronger.
Extremely strong vibes. It's going to vibe very hard. Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, because I do think the optical quality will be better than a GoPro because of the lenses being so much bigger.
Yeah, I can see that. The price for this thing is 300 Swedish francs.
What is that in real money?
It's like almost an XM5. It's like a half of an XM5.
Wait, those are two different. Almost an XM5 or half of an MX5?
Half of an MX5. XM5.
Okay, so like $400.
350
in real money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I don't know if that includes the lenses or not.
Oh, well, if it doesn't include the lenses, that'd be a problem.
I feel like it probably would. It'd probably include those 3 lenses.
I mean, it's not cheap, but I feel like that's getting down low enough that somebody might buy it on a lark.
Maybe. All right, so I copied the specs in here, which they answered the spec list in the FAQ by like just dropping the bullet list. And I was like, I'm going to copy this and just read the whole stupid thing on the podcast. They're saying that the sensor is 1/2.3, not 1/1.2. I was taking my math based upon like the information for the IMX117 and from like how big a 16 millimeter like coverage is.
1/2.3 is a lot smaller.
Yes, it is. It is a lot smaller, Daniel. But the lens mount could handle a larger sensor up to iPhone size.
So you're only using the center of the lens. The quality will be even better.
Yes. Let's go with that. It's 12 megapixels. That's pretty good.
For a 10-year-old camera, it's not bad.
It's got all those megapixels, Daniel. And you can shoot 2K up to 30 frames per second, 4K up to 24 frames per second.
You can shoot your next cinematic feature on this camera.
1080, 60 frames per second.
There you go.
H.264. You can shoot in black and white and RAW, and it takes micro SD cards.
Oh. Has a USB-C port.
Yeah, that's very important. The ISO max is at 3200.
That's kind of limiting.
I would recommend shooting this at 3200 all the time.
Yeah, for more vibes.
Yeah, really going to crank those vibes up. I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't shoot at 3200 all the time. Have you seen the thing where like apparently the iPhone's like peak dynamic range is at some ungodly ISO? It's like 12,000 or something like that.
I think I have seen that. I mean, didn't Gerald Undone do that video one time where he talked about all that stuff?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Does it make you want to shoot at like really high ISOs on your iPhone all the time?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Have you ever looked at the EXIF data from any iPhone photo? Like they always have such weird ISO values and shutter speeds.
Like decimals or whatever?
Well, it's like sometimes you'll get a photo and it's like ISO 56 or 937.
Oh yeah, they are like weird values.
Yeah, like it's not normal stops.
Yeah, no, they don't. It just feels like they're using it like a continuous variable like number that they're just shoving in there.
Yeah,
and not actually doing standard stops. So I guess like if you're not manually controlling it, why would you even bother? Like if it's not even shown to the user. Other than in the EXIF data, it's like, well, why not use ISO, whatever, 153.6 or something?
Yeah, that must be what it is.
Must be infinitely variable, Daniel.
I've got to ask you a question on this camera. I'm seeing here that the battery is 3.7 volts, 1350 milliamp hours. And I want to know if you think this battery will last shorter or longer than the W126 that Fuji keeps putting in cameras.
Shorter.
But not by much. I
mean, you can get like 30 minutes of 4K recording. I've pushed that on my XT3.
Yeah, you got in there once or twice.
Yeah. You can get like 40 minutes of 2K playback on this thing, Daniel.
2K playback?
That's what it says. It says playback.
Like if you want to watch a movie on it?
Verbatim, 2K playback, 40 minutes.
Take this with you on an airplane, and you can watch a movie in your flight.
Well, no, you can watch like an episode of The Office.
Yeah, it's more like it.
That's basically it. Yep. So I mean,
but at 1080p, you can get 50 minutes. That's almost an hour.
I mean, yeah, sure. Down res it. I mean, most like DVD quality is 720p.
This is a very strange spec to quote.
Yeah. So like. What do you think of this, Daniel? I think I've given you all the information. It's manual focus only. That's the other piece.
That's pretty big. Yeah, that's a pretty big one. I mean, I think it's obviously limited in some pretty major ways, but it's cute, which I think carries a lot of water. And I think it being that small and having interchangeable lenses, I feel like there are some people that would buy it for the novelty of it. And it's the kind of camera that I could see somebody taking on a trip or to a party just to like get some attention and have some fun taking some photos with their cute little tiny camera. And I think for that use case, it's just fine. Like, I think it'll be okay that the images don't look as good. And it'd be more about the experience and more about the vibes than, than using something, like a more normal camera. So, I mean, for me, I wouldn't pick it. I'd pick an XM5 or, if I wanted a fixed camera, like a Ricoh GR3 or something. But I think it's kind of cool. Have
you ever thought to yourself, this GoPro needs like a full-on lens?
Well, I mean, you have to wonder, right? Like we were just talking about that adapter for the iPhone that you put EF lenses on it. Anything like that with a tiny sensor, you have to think, how much better could this be if it had a real lens? And that's basically what they did here.
Okay, so. Let me read you to you the marketing print here,
and sell it to me,
and see if this changes your opinion at all. Which your opinion thus far was positive, so I'm really wondering if this swings you the other way. Due to widespread use of smartphones, the demand of portable cameras has declined. However, smartphones often lack the quality needed for telephoto situations and drain batteries quickly. In response, Mimi Micro mirrorless camera resembling traditional mirrorless cameras has emerged. It offers less lens versatility, accommodating 3 or more lenses, integrates accessories, and optionally includes a battery grip, providing large camera capabilities in a compact size.
I think I'm really hung up on them saying that that using your smartphone runs the battery down. Like,
I mean, like kind of,
but is that really a problem people have, that they want to take so many pictures on their phone and their battery keeps running out, so they're going to buy this camera instead?
I mean, it's usually like a key component of rundown tests whenever people test phones, but I feel like most phone manufacturers are optimizing for people being able to take a lot of photos.
Yeah, and it's also like, that is a solved problem. Like, you can get a battery grip for your phone too.
I purposely charged my phone to 100% whenever I went to F1 on Saturday, humble brag, and like I was away, like I charged it up, went, and I was away from my charger for 8 hours, and I took a bunch of photos and videos, and when I got back to the house, I was at like 78%.
What would have been better is if you had this tiny little camera with you that has its 3.7 volt, 1300 milliamp
I mean, if
battery.
I was going to get like 150 millimeter equivalent focal length, 250 millimeter, I think, right? Yeah, 250.
You probably could have gotten this into the race.
Honestly, like before we went, I thought to myself, maybe it's time I dig out that old Kodak point and shoot. They had like a 10x or whatever zoom on it. I couldn't find it. I was really sad. I almost if I could have found it, I would have charged it and brought it with me to take pictures of the track, because I'm like, that thing zooms in pretty far, and I could just like slide it into my pocket, and also I would get so much street cred because of the vibes.
Yeah, you would. Man, those cameras still kind of exist, but I had one of those super zoom cameras back in the day, which was a point and shoot camera, but it had a big lens on it. It looked like a little baby DSLR. And I mean, you could get like 30, 40 times zoom on those things.
Yeah.
It was wild.
It's good stuff. I mean, like, yeah, they're built to zoom, right?
Yeah, that's what needs to come back.
I think they still make stuff like that.
I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah. Because, I mean, I've been saying that about my phone for a long time, that really I want as much telephoto as they can give me. And like when the iPhone 16 Pro came out, it was still 5X, which is what the 15 is. If they had made that a 10X, I probably would have updated. So that's probably like for photos, that's maybe the biggest advantage of this camera, is that 250 millimeter focal length. But I still think I'd probably just use my phone.
I feel like a phone will take better photos than this.
Yeah.
I would almost guarantee it.
I think you're probably right.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm Back is doing stuff. People are into it. Like between these two Kickstarters, they've raised like $1 million.
I mean, honestly, like you can't discount that, right? I mean, somehow they did raise, $650,000 for this. That's a lot of money.
Well, I know that they said it's for photo enthusiasts. I just don't think it's for me, Daniel.
It's not film. If it was film.
If it shot film, hot dog.
Yes.
It'd be like that Rolly 35 AF thing.
I think I've seen some reviews on those, like more reviews coming out.
Yep.
Where are you at on that and the Pentax 17? You still think you want to get one of those?
I want both, like super bad.
Mm-hmm.
I already have multiple 35 millimeter film cameras, and so I want a half frame camera, and I want the Pentax 17.
Yeah. You think you'll get one of those at some point?
Is it
in your future?
I hope I do.
just to see if it comes to you.
You never know.
Anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us, and if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter @CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.